Hey guys, Scorpop here. Today I'm going to fill you in on what I've been planning over pretty much the course of a few months here, and that's attempting to get the Realm First level 80. While I wasn't successful in getting the Realm First, I was the first Alliance player to 80 and the server second, pretty much only beaten out by a Horde Blood Elf Paladin. Today I'm going to fill you in on my thought process, what happened, what I could have done differently, and my overall story on how all of this went down. Now, I've played WoW ever since the original Wrath of the Lich King, and have always been in awe of players who had had big accomplishments and knew how to get things done. And I knew that I was a skilled player. I knew when achievements would be released in Wrath of the Lich King that Realm First Hunter was for me. It just had to be. I've always been a Hunter main, and this was for me. This was a challenge I could do. So there I was playing TBC Classic, and this may have been about Tier 6 Sunwell. Was going to come out in a few weeks, and let's just say my guild was not doing too hot, alright? I think the furthest we made was about Turan Gorefiend, and no matter what, others may say differently, but in my opinion, we did not have skilled enough players to down Blood Boil, which was really, really embarrassing to say the least. Well, I met a lot of players in my old guild, some skilled, others really not so much, and it was a really hard decision to make since I had a lot of good friends in the guild, but ultimately my choice was to pack up and find a better guild, because this one certainly ain't it, I'll tell you that much, okay? If I wanted my chance at Realm First to level 80, I knew even then that I'd need the best gear in the game, from Further and Black Temple and Sunwell. Be that as it may, I prioritized the accomplishments I wanted over the friends I'd built up over the past few months in our guild alliance, which ultimately ended up working out in the end. If any of those guys watch this video, no hard feelings to any of you, but it is what it is, and it had to be that way, and that's really what fate came to be. So there I was that night. I was pretty down in the dirt. My guild alliance had just had a rough raid night when suddenly a guild was advertising a Karazhan run. Now, it was going to be quick and easy, so I figured, why not? That's when I met this new guild, Vindication. They immediately took notice of my DPS and were pressuring me to join the guild, which paid off and finally pushed me to leave my current guild at the time, and I joined them. I do have to thank them for now. They took me through Black Temple and geared me out. I was now in full tier 6 pretty much in one run. Sunwell comes and they gear me out there. They get me off pieces. They gear me in Sunwell tier 6. They get me my crafted gloves. I am stacked in gear at this point. I'm absolutely pumping in DPS. But as much as Vindication helped me out, it really was not meant to be. I was still hanging out with the skilled people in my old guild, and I got the news that Vindication was going to transfer to Benediction due to the waning population on Ashkandi, which, in all honesty, I really don't blame them for. Ashkandi was primarily horde-heavy server at this point, and they outnumbered us 3-1. I did still want Realm First on this server, though, and the Alliance population was still pretty healthy, so they transferred, and I pretty much just stayed. I ended up joining a new guild called Ascend, which I didn't do much in since I was pretty much stacked at this point, but I went on a few runs and all's well and good. A few months go by, and all I can really think about at this point is trying my best to prepare for what is to come, which was the Realm First 80 race. The Wrath beta is announced, and I got in about a month after it came out, which was pretty late in all honesty, but all things considered, that's fine. Luckily, I had done those quests a ton in Original Wrath and Retail WoW, so I knew I could do them pretty well. I practiced on the beta 2, 3 times. I try my best to get completely familiar with all the quests and do them as fast as possible. I leveled to 80 twice in the beta, and I had my route planned out with the first couple of zones, but after around 79, I didn't have too much time to practice, but I was planning to do a few dungeon runs in between with my guild, which I hope would have been enough to push me to 80. Now, a lot of classes do have soloing strats to get to 80. I knew Warrior and Death Knight have some strats to solo Utgard Keep and such, which may have probably been way more XP per hour than questing. But in all honesty, Hunters just don't have anything like that, which really sucks. The mobs are really hard to kite, and your pet just takes way too much damage to consider having a turtle tank them, so I knew if I wanted to temp Realm First on my Hunter, I'd have to do it by questing. Now, here comes the theory crafting on how I'd get the quests done faster than anyone else on my server. I theorized a couple of different specs. I tried survival, I tried a BM solo spec, but I tried different things on the beta, but what I ended up going with is to quest with 2 specs, since we have dual spec now, right? Well, I have a marksmanship spec and a beast mastery solo spec. Now you have to think about this. What is the main spec you're going to use to level the fastest? Beast Mastery does have some nice things, like a movement speed buff with Kindred Spirits and a nice pet tanking, but ultimately I felt like Beast Mastery just does not do enough damage to be able to push for Realm first. Survival, while is a very high damage output spec, has a couple of problems. A lot of that damage was relied on lock and load procs, dots, Black Arrow, and Serpent Sting. A normal mob is not going to live long enough to justify using Black Arrow and Serpent Sting on it. Thus, we need to have a very high damage output and abilities that kill mobs very quickly. And that brings us to Marksmanship. Now, Marksmanship has a couple of things. Marksmanship has a very strong, hard-hitting abilities that will kill the mobs very, very quickly in Chimera Shot and Aimed Shot. The talents I opted to take were a bit different than a standard MM rating spec, but you can see I tried to take some talents that would reduce the mana used on my abilities, and ones that would definitely help regain my mana. This is why primarily the most important talents here are Rapid Killing and Rapid Recuperation. Now, what that's going to do is every mob killed is going to regain a chunk of your mana over time, and increase your damage for each mob killed. For some reason on Wowhead, the guide there spec'd into improved stings, which I feel was a mistake because, you see, when you're killing mobs so fast, you're not going to use Serpent Sting at all. What you're going to want to do is throw Hunter's Mark up, use Chimera Shot, then use Aim Shot, and if the mob is not already dead, use Arcane Shot. I pretty much used this spec to level as fast as I possibly could. Now, group quests are actually a very good source of fast XP, but they can be very, very hard to solo, primarily Last Rites and Borean Tundra, the wanted quests that were in Dragonblight. But this is why I had this BM spec. This doesn't specialize in damage at all, but actually focuses on providing as much survivability as possible. With this and my tier 5 2-set beast bonus, which heals my pet 15% of the damage I deal, I'm pretty much able to solo every group quest in Northrend, barring a couple, which were the last quests in Amphitheater of Anguish, pretty much. But I practiced both these specs on the beta, I got used to them, I was set. Now comes the choice of pet. Now, the obvious choice you're probably thinking is a wolf, surely. Wolf provide the most damage and pretty much BIS in rating for hunters, and for a reason. They give you buff, they do a lot of damage, that's really the most important thing here, but I tried a few different pets, but my choice was ultimately going to be a Crocolisk. Now, hear me out as to why. 2 reasons. They are a tenacity pet, so when I swap to BM, they are able to easily tank the aforementioned group quests, but they also have a special ability that provides them with a little extra threat to help keep mobs off me called Bad Attitude. While in marksmanship, I opted for the Crocolisk to take some talents in damage and threat. I took Boar Speed and Charge so the Crocolisk could charge in and hold threat, kill mobs quickly, and keep moving, which I feel was the best way to move as fast as possible. With all that theory crafting out of the way, with these specs and talents, I figured I was set. I was ready. I bought enough food and flasks to last me to 80. I get my pre-quests popped up. I had a couple group quests, luckily, that I had never turned in Outland, so as soon as leveling was available, I turned those in and filled my quest log with 25 quests. Sadly, I had done a lot of quests, so a lot of them were just Isle of Quel'Donis dailies and Netherwing dailies, but it was really the most XP I could get, so I ended up just rolling with it. So there I was waiting on the Isle, ready to turn my quests in. Blizzard said Wrath would release at 6 p.m. EST in my time zone, which was the same as server, but they were about 10 minutes early. So as soon as it popped, I immediately turned all my quests in, port to Shat, turn everything in, and I used my Black Temple attunement neckpiece to port to Netherwing Ledge, turn everything in there, and then Hearth to Stormwind and take the boat. This puts me a few minutes behind, but with my knowledge of the game, the quests, the fact that I was a few minutes late probably put me into a better layer, in all honesty. I was able to get ahead quickly. I killed everything as fast as I could, didn't loot any mobs unless they were required for a quest, and completed the Borean Tundra quests crazy fast. I remember doing a /who, and I was the first person to 71. Did a /who at 72. I was the first person to 72 all the way, and it wasn't even remotely close. I think at one point I did a /who when I was 76, and nobody was even 75 yet. I think there was maybe one player at 74, but yeah. Absolutely nobody was catching up with me, basically. I remember questing in Dragonblight near the Wormrest Temple. I was level 72 with 98% experience, and a level 73 Blood Elf Pally passes me on a bear mount. Now, this scares me a little bit, but I do keep going. I do Dragonblight, Grizzly Hills. By the time I was in Grizzly Hills, no one was even there, so because I'm the only one doing quests with all the mobs myself, I was able to complete them crazy fast. 74 goes by, and 75. I finally talked to the hit up Zuldrak, and I'm going fast, and I see the same Blood Elf Pally pass me. It's a race, and it's going to be close. 76. I'm headed to Sholazar. I finally hit 77. I talked to the trainer in Sholazar and learned to fly, and this is it. This is the home stretch. Now, at this point, I've been playing for about 16 hours, and the sleep is starting to set in, but I do keep going. I stay awake, I push forward. Storm Peaks, I get to 78, and 79, Ice Crown. I was able to start the intro quests in Ice Crown when I saw the achievement. Blood Elf Pally that passed me earlier had done it and beat me in 80. I gotta give him props. I think with a bit more prep, I could have come close, but he did beat me at questing fair and square. Regardless, I pushed forward, and I ended up doing it. I got Realm First Night Elf and Hunter, and it felt so good in the end. All in all, if you're going to take anything from this video, it's to never give up. Always try and push forward to that next level and really get ahead of the game. If you try your hardest, it'll all work out in the end. Even though I was second, I'm really proud of the achievement I accomplished, and I'm really glad I had the opportunity to go on this journey. Take care, and see you in Northrend. Peace.